Yeah, 1 week away and it's all new.
Well, here's the exciting thing. Hi, Mom, by the way.
Hey,
Hi,
Mom.
Mom.
Here's the exciting thing about today. We're actually going to finish the first half of the book today, which means all the gloom and doom and judgment and all that kind of stuff is on pause until we get back next week. But we do finish the first part of the book, and I did this a little bit different because something that I saw when I read this, it really jumped out at me, and so I'm gonna try to I'm going to try to get the screen to advance. That might do it, perhaps. Okay, now it works. Well, we completed this long, detailed section. We started with the tale of two kings, and who were the two kings? This is review. I know we had a week off.
Hezekiah was one, right?
Yeah,
And
Hezekiah
and Ahaz.
Ahaz and Hezekiah. Ahaz, the king who had no faith, and Hezekiah, the king who showed faith. And Isaiah presents those in a contrast. What was Ahaz's biggest concern?
He feared.
doing things himself.
No. That was his response, but his biggest concern, Cindy, was
He feared Assyria
right.
taking over.
Right. He feared Assyria, but even more immediate, he feared the northern kingdom and Syria, Damascus, because they were an immediate threat. So he was secure. He was afraid for his security. He did not have faith in God. He saw a future that was bleak, and rather than trusting God for that future, he responded by
Make an alliance with his, the enemies.
right,
Yeah,
making an alliance with the enemy, doing the wrong thing,
Right.
not doing what God said. And so we sort of compared that in a contrast between those. Then we looked at the tale of the two judgments. And this was divided in the judgments against the nations, which were interesting because in the way that Isaiah presents this, they're on the side of Ahaz. So it's almost as if Ahaz, I know you're under threat now. I know you have fear now, but I will render judgment on these other nations that are threatening you. And there's a whole litany of the surrounding nations, current and former and future enemies of Israel. And then the other judgments were the woes to Judah, which is more like, if you think of it as a carrot and a stick, carrot to Ahaz, look, you can have faith in me because I'm going to deal with these things that you fear. And with Hezekiah, it was more of a stick. You are going to be subject to those same judgments because you're not living right. You don't honor me, and you're not living according to the covenant. And so Isaiah presented that to contrast. And then we did this tale of the two cities. And there's the city of the old Jerusalem, who will be conquered, who'll be devastated, who'll be judged. But also this picture of this new city, this new Jerusalem, this place where God dwells with us, this place where every tear is wiped. The lion lays down with the lamb. All of these images, very familiar to us because we read Revelation in the New Testament, and it's that same sort of image. And so we have this way this first section is presented to us in these three tales, these three contrasts, these three, the way the thing is organized. But what I found was really, really interesting is in the midst of those three things are three songs of praise that Isaiah has. And that's basically what we're doing this week, is covering these three little songs of praise that are in the midst of these three tales. And let's see. Oh, yes, here they are. So the first one is going to be in chapter 12, 1 through 6. So this is in the context of where Isaiah is talking to Ahaz, where he's delivering messages to Ahaz. And it's a song that it's a praise that God is in control. Why is that important? Because Ahaz is he's afraid of his future. He's afraid of these other nations. And in the midst of that, Isaiah offers this little song of praise. Praise you, God, that you are in control, that you have the future in your hands, that I can trust you, that I can have faith in you. So that's the first one. The second one is in chapter 25, 1 through 12. And this is on the side of the old city, the old Jerusalem. And even though there is this judgment that'll happen, Isaiah's offers up this praise that God, you are faithful. You have called Abraham out of the land of Ur. You have provided us this deliverance, at Sinai. You've given us this covenant. You say we are your people, and you are faithful to execute your plan, execute your promises. And so even though there is this judgment, even though this old city is going to be done away with, I'm going to praise you that you're faithful. And so there's that one. And then the last one is, you are merciful. And this is on the side of the New Jerusalem, the new city, that even though we deserve every bit of the judgment that comes, you are going to provide a way to show your mercy. And he doesn't know it yet, I don't think, but he's pointing the way right to the cross, that God does provide a way that he can have mercy on us and still be holy and righteous. And so we see in these three little praise songs, just three attributes of God that Isaiah brings out. Okay. And so I thought we'll just, without further ado, we'll just kind of jump into those. That's sort of the context of where they are. We're going to kind of read through them quick, but there's some really neat stuff. And what I like, two things I liked about these. One is the context in which they are, where Isaiah is raising this praise to God in the midst of something. And the other is all of these are applicable to us today, because God's still in control.
Mm-hmm.
God is still faithful. And every day his mercies are new. Every day. And so we can sing these same songs of praise. All right, so let's just go to jump in. We're starting in chapter 12. I'm sorry. There's two other praise songs later that we'll catch up with, but we're not doing that in this section.
In that day, you will say, I feel like I should sing it. I will praise you, Lord, although you were angry with me. Your anger has turned away and you have comforted me. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. The Lord himself is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation.
In that day you will say, give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make known among the nations what he has done, and proclaim that his name is exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done glorious things. Let this be known to all the world. Shout aloud and sing for joy, people of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel among you.
Isn't that just uplifting to
Yes.
read that?
Yes.
I mean, it's
His
and-
name, like today is a high name, the name,
Yeah.
exalted,
Yeah.
right?
So we're reading about all this judgment. This is in the context of Ahaz. We're reading about all this judgment, and Isaiah says, "No, I'm going to sing a song of praise here," and he sings this, and we read that, and I mean we're uplifted because these are the words that we
Long to hear.
finally we're out of judgment. Yeah, yeah. Well, let's take a look at this. In that day, what day do you suppose he's referring to? In that day, you will say, what day is he talking about?
Maybe a day that he knows, only he knows.
Okay, so maybe it's an unspecified day.
Yeah.
When did it occur? Or has it yet to occur?
Maybe when it's over,
What'd you say?
when it's over.
Oh, it's,
Maybe it's something that it should be sung every day.
Could be that it should be any days like this. But in that day, you will say, talking to Ahaz,
When Assyria is defeated.
probably when he sees that God has predicted, because remember, he gave Ahaz a sign, and the sign was that these two blocks of firewood, I don't remember the guy, these two sticks of firewood will be done with. And I think what Isaiah is telling Ahaz is, look, I've told you this stuff's going to happen. So in that day, when it happens, in that day, when this all gets fulfilled, and some of it's immediate, and some of it's longer, and some of it's, still yet to be done. But in that day, you will say, you will be able to say, oh God, you are in control. You are faithful. I can trust you.
Mhm.
It also recognizes the reality of sin. Because sin does anger God. But God has a plan. And in the end, there will be comfort. So even though the prophecy to Ahaz was challenging, in that day, when you see that I'm in control, and you've heard about what's going to happen, and even beyond the judgment, what's going to happen, you'll know that you'll be comforted. I got to get to my notes before I get out of Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. Why is God surely my salvation? What makes you sure? Okay, let's go back to the slide before where I just talked about this. I gave you a sign. This is what's going to happen. When you say it happened, you will praise. Surely God is my salvation. Why is he sure?
Does it happen?
Because it
I
happened.
just saw.
You
with
witnessed
my
it,
own
yeah.
eyes,
Yeah, you saw it with your own eyes.
Yeah.
You saw that these immediate enemies you have, these 2 stumps of firewood, will be done away with. And so in that day when that happens, you realize something. And surely you realize that I am here for you. I am your God. You have no faith in me now, Ahaz. But you'll see this and you'll say, God is the God of my salvation. God is the one I need to trust. God is the one I need to have faith in. I will trust and not be because he feared.
Yeah.
That was Ahaz's problem. He saw all this stuff around him, this future that he couldn't control, and he was afraid. But when he see that God acts in history as God has said he will act, surely God is my salvation. I will trust. And because he's my salvation, I can trust him. I will not be afraid because God's in control. And then the last part of that, in that day, same day, right? In that day, you need to declare something, right? What are you declaring?
That he is God, he's
That's
he's
right.
a man of a God of his word,
Right,
and you trust him.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
Right. This is what you're going to be able to say. And the other nations around you are going to see that God has acted as well. And you need to tell them. Why do you need to tell them? Because your purpose here is to be the light to the nations. God is going to act through you. And they're going to see God act through you. And that'll be the light. It'll be known to all the world that the Holy One of Israel is among them. That's their purpose. Remember the promise of Abraham? To be blessed and be a blessing. This is not just for the people of Israel. This is for the whole world. This is for all the nations. But it's through you that I'm going to reveal myself. It's through you that I'm going to act. It's through you that I'm going to show that I'm a God who's in control of history. I think I have one more here. Yeah. And note, I like almost the missionary zeal when you look at the words here. Give praise, proclaim, make known, proclaim, sing, let this be known, shout, sing. We're not to be silent about this. If God's acting in our lives, if God's present in our lives, if God's in control in our lives, if God's doing what he's promised in our lives, we should be silent and under a bushel and not let anybody know. No, it's missionary. You know, and Isaiah sees this, you know, however, 2,800 years ago. He sees this. This is our purpose. This is Israel's purpose. This is why Abraham was called. And this is our purpose as we're called as well. It just really, I found that rather profound, that this is a message for today. Every bit is a message for Ahaz 2,800 years ago. All right, that's all I got. What do you got? I don't even hear crickets. Did I cover everything in that?
I will say that like during communion, although you were angry with me, your anger has turned away and you have comforted me. I kind of feel that sometimes during communion when I think about things that, you know, I didn't do so well.
Yeah, this right here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and why during communion is that appropriate, do you think?
Because, I mean, for what Jesus did for us, and, you know, then we go out and do these other things that don't honor him.
Reflection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
reflection.
But think about what happens at the cross. That's where God's anger is vented.
Yeah.
His anger at you, and his anger at me, his anger at the person down there, yeah, and that person over there, yeah. It's vented on Christ. Christ accepts that. And it's because of that that we have comfort.
Mm.
And we're actually going to see that next week. Chapter 40 starts with comfort my people. And it's that same idea, just like you said. All right, anything else?
Well, even though Ahaz did not follow in the right way, God was still there to take care of him.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
still acted, right? Because he said he would act,
Even though he wasn't one of the ones that,
right?
Yeah.
He's got the thumbs down on the little map.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
And I think when something happens in your life that turns into a new creature, as Jeff would say today,
Yeah.
a new creature in Christ, or whatever, something profound, I think we should share the good news. Let people know, you know, just the other day I was telling someone I had trouble quitting smoking. And long story short, I hypnotist, you know, the whole, and I finally got on my knees and I asked God and I prayed hard. I asked for help, and it was when I tell you I'm on the ceiling when I'm not smoking, I'm a very nervous person,
Mm.
high strung. I was so calm finally. And I said, oh my, and it worked. And I tell everybody that because it happened, it was true. Praise God, it was through the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
the power of God. Not that I did it. I tried 100 times before, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I could not quit smoking. It's such an addictive, and finally I just, please take it from me. With all my heart, I cried. I said, please
Yeah.
take it. And he did.
Yeah.
And that was over 25 years ago. Thank
And
God.
It's so common that he's not our first choice, but he's surely our last resort.
Yeah, I tried
When all
everything.
else fails,
And
I'll
it was
pray.
my husband who challenged me. My husband said, you believe in the power of prayer? Do
right,
it.
yeah.
And I said, rat.
Yeah.
And that was true. And he said, pray. And we both prayed on it and it worked.
He's
Yeah,
still,
it
he's
worked.
still a
You
God.
gotta
that's in
share, you
control.
gotta witness, you gotta share God's good news,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
Great story.
that's why I like
It
these
took
songs of
me-
praise. You know, you're sharing, you sing out,
Yeah,
joy, be it,
right.
don't be quiet about it. Let
Yeah.
people know that God is alive and he's doing great things.
Yeah, and those were commands. I didn't, whatever, the tense or whatever the right grammar thing is to say.
Mhm.
But this is the response to this. God has shown you this, that he's in control. This is your response. Sing out, make known, you know, shout with joy. These are not suggestions.
Mhm.
These are commands. This should be our response. If God's active in our life,
Yeah.
then that should be our response. Okay, we'll go to the next one. This is a praise song about God's faithfulness. It's a little bit longer. I think Nancy, I'm with you.
Lord, Lord, you are my God. I will exalt you and praise your name. For in perfect faithfulness, you have done wonderful things, things planned long ago. You have made the city a heap of rubble, the fortified town a ruin, the foreigner's stronghold a city no more. It will never be rebuilt.
Mm,
Therefore, strong peoples will honor you. Cities of ruthless nations will revere you. You have been a refuge for the poor, a refuge for the needy in their distress, a shelter from the storm, and a shade from the heat. For the breath of the ruthless is like a storm driving against a wall, and like the heat of the desert. You silence the uproar of foreigners, as heat is reduced by the shadow of a cloud. So the song of the ruthless is stilled.
On this mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meals and the finest of wines. On this mountain, he will destroy the shroud that enfolds all peoples, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up the death forever. The foreign Lord,
Auburn.
I can't say it, okay, the southern Lord will wipe away the tears from all faces. He will remove his people's disgrace from all the earth. The Lord has spoken.
In that day they will say, surely this is our God, we trusted in him and he saved us. This is the Lord, we trusted in him. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. The hand of the Lord will rest on the mountain, but Moab will be trampled in their land as straw is trampled down in manure.
And then one more.
They will stretch out their hands in it. As swimmers stretch out their hands to swim, God will bring down their pride despite the cleverness of their hands. He will bring down their high fortified walls and lay them low. He will bring them down to the ground, to the very dust.
Now, let me ask before I do my turn. We heard a lot of foreigners in there. I don't know if you noticed it. There's 3 or 4 times that foreigners were mentioned.
mhm.
Ruthless people, people that are against you. Okay, remember, this is prophecy to the nation, the southern kingdom here, to Judah, surrounded by enemies. Remember, we had the Assyria will be up to your neck, right?
Mhm.
We had that. Later, Babylon will come and finish the job, but Assyria at the time these were given. And what is the hope that you have for Hezekiah? Because it's more Hezekiah's time. When you're surrounded up to your neck by foreign enemies, what is your hope? What do you want God to do?
Deliver you from your enemies.
Smite those people.
Yes.
Smite them. You know, render judgment, bring them low, tear the walls down, destroy them. We heard all of those words in there. But did you also hear the messages of hope for those same nations? Go back, and if you have it open there, just scan it really quickly where he talks about all nations or all people. The word all, look for that. It's in there multiple times. And that's one of the things I just find just amazing, that when God needs to execute judgment, there's always hope. There's always hope. There's always a picture of what will happen because I have a plan, I'm in control, and I am faithful to execute the plan. And so let's dig into this a little bit deeper. But that's what struck me out about this praise song.
27.
And the one word here that sort of was the title, of course, of this little praise song, at least my little title for it, is that, Lord, you're my God, I exalt you and praise you. And why? Because your faithfulness is
Mhm.
perfect. It's complete. It's full. It's rich. You never go back on your word. You never fail to give what you promise. You never fail, to do what you say you're going to do. It isn't as quick as I would like, but you never fail.
Right.
You never fail. Things planned long ago. And you go back to Genesis 3, right? And the curse is given. You will bruise, and then talks about the descendants of Eve and the descendants of the serpent. You will hit my heel. You bruise the heel, but he will crush your head. It's planned from the very beginning. It's planned then. And God will be faithful to bring that to pass. And now we start into the little pieces here about you've made this city a heap of rubble. What city do you suppose he's talking about?
Jerusalem.
Probably many of them.
Yeah, it doesn't really
Yeah.
specify. Yeah, it could be any enemy we have. Remember, this also could be symbolic. Cities are sometimes as like we might say Seoul disagrees with this action that our Congress takes. Well, it's not Seoul that's disagreeing with it. It's a personification of the people of Korea, right? So it's that kind of thing. It's an unspecified city, but at some point in time, something's going to happen.
My notes say it could be ancient or future.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah, because that's what I loved about these little praises. They're as relevant today as they were then. Because we have our own enemies. Now we may not consider them like, Assyria, but we have our own enemies, whether they're spiritual or physical.
Mm.
Whether it's some person against us or whether it's just our own spiritual nature. We have these enemies that have strongholds in our lives. You talked about cigarettes. That was a
Yes.
stronghold in your life that
Very addictive.
that had to be overcome.
Yes.
Yeah. That had become a heap of rubble, a heap of ash, perhaps.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
I gotta figure out why I'm going to Revelation right now. I don't know, but that's what the slide is. Huh?
I said that 4-year-old led you there.
Mom, I'm pausing because I don't know what I'm doing next. Go ahead, Nancy.
Well, mine talks about it in verse 6 to 8, about wiping away the tears. In Revelation.
That
but
would be
that's not
Revelation, the
here.
wiping away of tears.
Yeah, but I'm before that.
In Revelation 21:4.
I have 19:9.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what,
Okay,
let me
absolutely.
go here because I have notes about this. I don't know how it fits in exactly, but it'll come to me. So this is Revelation 17, 3 and 5. There the angel carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, the place where God isn't. Chaos, where God's not in control. And there I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered, I know why now, with the blasphemous names that had 7 heads and 7 horns. The name written on her forehead was a mystery. Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abomination of the earth. Is this the city that he's referring to before? Babylon? Babylon the Great? Well, in Revelation, is Babylon a specific city? Or is it representative of where evil is?
I think it's
Representative.
Yeah, I think we would all agree there's some sort of symbolism there that John's using in Revelation
Right.
that talks about this. And then the next now we're talking about that same woman. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. Maybe this is the city Isaiah is referring to. After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, and he had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. And with a mighty voice, he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great." The city, this representative city, this is fallen. She's become a dwelling for demons, a haunt for every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. Symbolic of all of the evil in our lives, all of these bad things that are there, all of the evil that comes. And again, John's not referring to a specific city. It's a symbolic city. And I think Isaiah in 25, it's the same thing.
Made the city.
Yeah, you have made the city. I think it's that same sort of city. You're going to conquer the enemies that we have, whether they're physical ones, which might have been in Isaiah's day, or the spiritual ones, which you and I have to deal with every day. But you are going to be faithful to bring that low.
The stronghold no more, so
Yeah,
all those things are gone.
yeah. Oh, you'd be overcome it. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. That didn't seem to go together well, but you know, I don't get paid for this, so. Uh,
Yeah, you will.
well, yeah. Well, I don't know. Jeff challenged today at church. I got to think about that, you know. I do not want to handle this incorrectly. I do not want to handle this incorrectly. Therefore, strong peoples will honor you, and cities of ruthless nations will revere you. Wait a minute, aren't those the bad people?
Mhm.
Well, why will they honor you? Why will they revere you? Well, because in the same way that you're going to render judgment on Judah and then deliver her, in the same way, they're going to see that deliverance. It's the same hope they have because, and that comes through Christ, because God will render judgment. He does on the cross. And through that, it's that hope that you and I now share because we honor and revere God. I hope I'm going here because this is where my mind's going. Yes, it is. How convenient. You're talking to a nation that's under threat. Or I'm talking to a room of people who have spiritual threats, a spiritual enemy, a real spiritual enemy that's attacking. It's that same idea. And then what is God providing? Well, it's a refuge. It's a refuge of the poor who don't have means to overcome, right? They're at the mercy of. It's a refuge for the needy. They're in distress. They can't overcome it. It's too great for them. Whether that's a physical enemy that's you know, Babylon at the time, or whether that's a spiritual enemy that we can't overcome. And a shelter, a place of safety, a place of refuge, a place of security. That's there. And then shade from this heat, this blistering heat of an enemy that's beating down on you, where there's no relief. If you've ever been out, you know, working in the sun in Florida in the summertime,
Yes.
you can do about 30 minutes of that. And after that,
You're cooked.
you're pretty much cooked. Yeah. Yeah. But if you had shade,
Hmm.
you could go a little bit longer.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. And this, I just love the in the blue, it's the way the enemy attacks us, this warm breath, this Florida humid around us, you know, the storm, the heat, the uproar, all of these images of distress, all of these images of discomfort, all of these images of under attack. But our God is faithful, and that ruthlessness of that enemy who's always under the attack, that'll be stilled. That'll be stilled because our God is faithful. Okay, one more. I get the sense that on this mountain he will destroy. Okay, so you know that's you know, euphemism for judgment. The shroud. So there's some covering that people can't see, right? Shroud's like a covering or a blanket or something like that. That has all people, and a sheet that covers them up. Israel has special revelation through their history. But eventually, all people, that covering, that shroud, that sheet's going to be pulled away. And they will see what Israel should see. That the God who's in control and a God who's faithful.
Mhm.
It says he will swallow up death forever. Is that Christ?
I'm sorry?
He will swallow up death forever.
Yeah.
Is that Christ?
Yeah, I think it's definitely pointing that way. Yeah. Yeah. And you have these Revelation type images of things we understand from Revelation, that swallow up death forever, wipe away all tears, remove the people's disgrace. That'll be done. We're new. We're created new. But look at this little section in Acts, and I know you're familiar with this because it's New Testament. And this is where Peter begins, and he says he has this dream And then Representative Cornelius come and want Peter to come to him, and Cornelius is a Gentile, he's not a Jew. And Peter has this sense that that would be an unclean act. He's supposed to eat all these images in his dream. He's supposed to eat all the animals that come, and he can't quite reconcile this. You know, I'm a Jew. I'm pure. Those are Gentiles. Those are sinners. Those are not us.
Yeah.
Those are not God's people. And I think God in his, I don't know, I think it's a sense of humor anytime with Peter, but but he says, I'm just gonna show you this. And he walks in the house and he says to Cornelius, I shouldn't be here, but I am because I'm a good guy. I'm doing what God tells me to do. And Cornelius says, is it the message for all people? Kind of humbled that. And then Peter then begins to speak. He says, I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism. In other words, it's not just about Jews. It's not just about Jews, but he accepts from every nation anyone that fears and does what is right. You know the message God sent to the people of Israel, announcing the good news of peace through Jesus Christ, who is Lord of all. And I think Peter begins to understand, maybe even from the Old Testament, because he certainly would have known that God's message is not just for the Jews. Abraham was not called just to be the only nation that serves God or that knows God. They were to be blessed for sure, but to be a blessing. And Isaiah pointed back, which we just read, about this was a message for all peoples. I think Peter finally gets it in the New Testament. He realizes this message is a message for all. You know, Peter and Paul were a little bit at odds on that. You read in Acts. And then, as Paul says, I had to set them straight. But I mean, there is sort of that image of revelation. You know, 2,800 years, or not, it would have been 800 years then. 800 years of history from Isaiah, where all these prophecies are about all peoples, and first century, where it was definitely Jews versus Gentiles. There was that dichotomy there again. They're not us. At least I'm not like them, you know. And no, you are them. And this message is for all people. All right, let's go back to Isaiah. And then these images we talked about: swallow up death forever, wipe away tears, remove his disgrace. And of course, we see that immediately because that's the same you point out in Revelation. And in fact, he's quoting Isaiah when John writes this at the end, chapter 21. He'll wipe away tears, and there will be no more death, no more mourning, crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. And remember, in the context of where these praise songs are, it's on the old Jerusalem side of the Tale of Two Cities. All of these things are being passed away. All of these things are being dealt with. All these things are being done with. And there's a greater hope, the New Jerusalem, that'll come right on the heels of that. And even Paul gets in the act here. He talks about in 1 Corinthians 15, when the perishable has been clothed with the imperishable, so something's exchanged, and the mortal with immortality, something's exchanged, then the saying that is written will come true. Death has been swallowed up. Oh, death, where is your victory? Where's your sting? Yeah. Because it's been dealt with. God's already dealt with this now through that cross. That has been dealt with. The death that comes from sin, that has been judged. You're free of that. This is the plan all along. And I'm faithful to execute that. All right, then we get back into the Isaiah. Little side trips there in the New Testament. In that day, there's that phrase again. When you see these things happening, surely this is our God. We trusted him and he saved us. This is the Lord, we trusted him, and let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. It's that same image of our response should be a response of praise because we have been saved. And then I want to finish up with this one here. Well, I wish I could turn that off now. I don't know how to do that. Oh, well, we'll leave it on. You might be able to hear it in my computer, but,
Playing the song.
you can hear it a little bit. There is a leveling that occurs. And remember, this is in the midst of enemies that are threatening Israel, that are on the border, up to their neck. In that context, there will be a leveling. Those that exalt themselves above you now, they'll be brought low. Those that are full of pride, those will be brought low. There's a leveling that'll occur. And not just that the high and mighty are brought down, but the lowly, the ones that are in distress, the ones that are put upon, the ones that are oppressed, they will be lifted up. And that's this image from Handel's Messiah that verse in Isaiah calls out. Isaiah 40. Every valley will be exalted, every mountain and hill will be made low. There will be a leveling. This life that looks crooked, that's going to be made straight. And it's going to be made straight by the Messiah, as we'll find when we get to chapter 40 next week. Okay, your turn.
It was really good. I don't know.
I got enough.
There's a lot there.
It's interesting how, when James was writing all this down, how he quoted Isaiah.
All of them.
Yeah, I
All
know,
of them did.
Isaiah Messianic
Yeah.
all the way through. It's
Yeah.
just,
And it shows how important the book is
yeah.
to first century Judaism. They knew Isaiah. They were looking forward to it.
Yeah.
They were looking for a Messiah.
Yeah.
Jesus was not the first person that came along that said, I am the Messiah. There were others that did that. That's part of the reason they were challenged by his claim, because he was meek and humble and lowly, and that's not what they expected.
Mm,
They expected the warrior,
the
the
war,
king, the defeater.
get rid of Rome.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
get rid of Rome.
Mm,
But it's even deeper because he's getting rid of the spiritual challenge, the spiritual Babylon in their lives. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, and it's, yeah, John quotes them. And Paul, we read there were
Acts. Mhm, yeah.
Romans, which I've spent a little bit of time on, keep going back and forth in there. That has a lot of Isaiah in it as well.
Mhm.
Because this Messiah that's Isaiah talks about, and we'll get more of that in the second half of that book. That's what they're looking for, and that's when they begin to realize that Jesus is that person. He is the one that's going to do that. This is how God's going to accomplish. This is how God will be faithful, because he will not just send a person, he will send his own son to accomplish what no person could.
And verse 4 is the one that really speaks to me the most, only because it reminds me of when one of our daughters went to Africa on a mission trip, and she came back a bit of a changed person, but she was wrestling with how people who could have so little could be so happy. And I just think that that's, people who are so rich don't have time for God.
Mhm.
You know, it's just
They don't see their need as much.
right.
Yeah.
But she was just, torn up about that.
Yeah.
Content, they were content, yes.
And did we
indeed.
just talk about that
Yeah.
today?
Mhm.
Yeah, Jeff's with us again. I don't know how he does
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
Do you tell him that he's always with us?
No. No.
You
I don't-
always say things that fit into our lesson.
Well, I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he does it.
Because he doesn't, God does.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, you're reading through these praise songs exactly what you're expecting to hear in New Testament terms, right? These are the same sorts of message that we talk about.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's one of the reasons this book is so relevant. It's in a different context. It's a different set of people, but it's the same message.
Mhm.
God's in control.
Mhm.
God's faithful. And as we'll next read, God's merciful. And these are things that are worthy of praise.
Mhm.
Isaiah sings a praise about God's being in control, where we don't have to fear the future. He sings about how God is faithful, that he will carry out what he's planned to do, even those things from long ago that haven't been carried out yet because we're impatient. He will do that. He is faithful. And then this one, which is a little bit of a longer one.
You said that about 25.
Huh?
You said that about 25.
Well, it was a longer. This is even longer still.
I think it's 26.
I'm gonna jump in real quick on verse 6. That just kind of reminds me of the 23rd Psalm, when he prepares the table before me in the presence of my enemies, the best of meats and the finest wines.
Yeah.
Mm,
Prepares the
Very
table.
nice.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And for people that's a scratch existence, having a feast is a
Mm.
big deal
yeah.
with the best of meats and the finest of wines. Ready to go forward?
Mhm.
Okay. I have no idea where we left off, somewhere down there.
In that day, the song will be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. God makes salvation. Its walls and ramparts open the gates that the righteous nation may enter. The nations that keep faith, you will keep in perfect space those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you.
This is the context of the two cities. We
Mhm.
read the one about the old city, right? About it will be destroyed. And now we have about a new city, a strong city.
Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself is the rock eternal. He humbles those who dwell on high. He lays the lofty city low. He levels it to the ground and casts it down to the dust. Feet trample it down, the feet of the oppressed, the footsteps of the poor.
We talked about that leveling. And hear that theme again? The high and mighty brought down, those that are oppressed, are raised up, every valley.
Path of the righteous is level. You, the upright one, make the way of the righteous smooth. Yes, Lord, walking in the way of your laws, we wait for you. Your name and renown are the desires of our hearts. My soul yearns for you in the night. In the morning, my spirit longs for you. When your judgments come upon the earth, the people of the world were in righteousness.
Forward looking,
Mm.
right? Forward looking. When your judgments come upon the earth. All this destruction you talked about, but when those come, something else comes. They'll learn righteousness.
But when grace is shown to the wicked, they do not learn righteousness. Even in a land of uprightness, they go on doing evil and do not regard the majesty of the Lord. Lord, your hand is lifted high, but they do not see it. Let them see your zeal for your people and be put to shame. Let the fire reserved for your enemies consume them. Lord, you established peace for us. All that we have accomplished, you have done for us.
Lord our God, other lords besides you have ruled over us, but your name alone do we honor. They are now dead, they live no more. Their spirits do not rise. You punished them and brought them to ruin. You wiped out all memory of them. You have enlarged the nation, Lord. You have enlarged the nation. You have gained glory for yourself. You have extended all the borders of the land.
Now we'll get to that one. That's a good one though.
Lord, they came to you in their distress when you just disciplined them. They could barely whisper a prayer. As a pregnant woman about to give birth writhes and cries out in her pain, so were we in your presence, Lord. We were with child, we writhed in labor, but we gave birth to wind. We have not brought salvation to the earth, and the people of the world have not come to life. Okay, I don't understand that one.
Oh, that's a good one. We'll get to that one.
But your dead will live, Lord, their bodies will rise. Let those who dwell in the dust wake up and shout for joy. Your dew is like the dew of the morning. The earth will give birth to her dead.
That sounds kind of New Testament. Okay, we'll come back to it.
Go, my people, into your rooms and shut the doors behind you. Hide yourselves for a little while until his wrath has passed by. See, the Lord is coming out of his dwelling to punish the people of the earth for their sins. The earth will disclose the bloodshed on it. The earth will conceal its slain no longer.
All right, and so we're left with. Well, I don't know. Let's dig into it, see if we can figure out. In that day. So again, Isaiah is saying, you know, this is still happening. This is still looking forward. And this is in the context of the two cities, but it's on the side of the new city. So in that day, in this future day, when that new Jerusalem comes. And we had several themes. We'll pick them up as we go through, but there was the leveling. I've sort of mentioned that. There's the final destruction of evil. I don't know, I didn't mention that, but that was in there. And then in this one, sort of the preview is how the city is built. And how's it built? Well, it's built with salvation. That's how its walls and ramparts are built. That's why it's secure. Because God has secured it. He has done away with evil. He has judged evil. That's done away with. And through that judgment, we are created new in this new city that has now a stronghold that's based on that salvation. That's our Christian life. That's why, that's why we have faith, because it's built on that salvation that God has provided. And it's open for all. Open the gates. Who's coming in? Yeah, the righteous nation. Not just the Jews, and not just these other, righteous people in other nations. They're all together. It's all together. They're all coming in. And this is that leveling part. He humbles those who dwell on high and lays the lofty city low. There will be a leveling. He levels it to the ground. That's a part of what happens with judgment. Those things that we elevate above God, those are going to be trampled down. God's going to bring those down. One of the other threads that we had through this whole book is this idea of a path or a way or a highway. And the path of the righteous is level. Make way, the righteous one, another Messiah thing, will make a way for the righteous, for that to be smooth. And it's that image of what a right life with God is. It's level. It doesn't have the oppression, the opposition, the obstacles. They all start with O, as it turns out. But it's a smooth path. And we walk in step with God. That's where that smooth path is. Then one more here. You punish them, and then you enlarge the nation. You have enlarged the nation. You have gained glory for yourself and have extended all the borders of the land. How important is land to the Jews? Think about it. That's one of the big promises of Abraham. I will send you to this land. This land will be your own. This land is, this land is your land. So where that phrase came from. But it's critically important. And what's going to happen is they're going to be removed from their land in the Babylonian exile. And I think they're going to come back and read this and go, wait a minute. This is like, wait a minute, I've been removed from it. How is that land going to come back? Well, it's not just going to be that land. It's expanded. It's expanded because it's not just you coming back. It's all nations. I need more space. I need more land. And it's all to God's glory that he's done that, because the removing is righteous judgment, but the bringing them back is nothing but mercy. And in that merciful area, it's an expanded landmass. And this particular one I thought was interesting because of, make sure I'm the right. Yeah, stars for that. The words of desperation in here, and think about Israel had a purpose in God's plan. They were to be blessed and then be a blessing. They were to be the light of the nations. It was through them that God would reveal himself. They had a mission to treat each other right and to live right so that other nations see and are attracted. And so they can become included in the family of God. And this is how the nation has performed in that plan. They're distressful. They can barely whisper a prayer. There's nothing there. They're about to give birth and he cried in pain, but they give birth to the wind. There's nothing, there's no substance. They are not fulfilling their purpose. And as we get into the next section, that's why the Messiah has to come. Because they fail in their purpose, but the Messiah will succeed in that purpose. They have not brought salvation to the earth. They have not revealed God's glory to the earth. And the people of the world have not come to life because they have not seen your light. And it's a desperation, I think, of the nation. This is where we find ourselves. And yet, your dead will yet live. The earth will give birth to her dead. There will be something new that comes out of this, even though you gave birth to nothing but the wind. God, who's in control and who is faithful, will have mercy. And the dead will live again. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful prayer of just understanding where God is working with this nation at this time. And of course, this is before Babylon. It's before that big judgment to come. But through that, Isaiah is pointing us a little bit forward. But before that, the Lord's coming out of his dwelling to punish the people. That's going to happen.
That sounds a little like Passover to me.
Yeah.
Go in and
yeah,
shut the door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Let it pass by.
Yep.
Let it pass by. That is going to happen. Okay. Well, you have 3 minutes now to share your insight.
I had a conviction on, I think it was verse 18. The people have not come to life, and I feel like in some ways I've not done my part.
Not shared the gospel as much as you could have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
help bring those that are lost.
Yeah.
The light.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Okay.
You don't know. Just by talking to somebody, you've been around to so many places and you may have touched so many lives that you don't even aware of
But
it.
there's a few that I haven't, and those are the ones that that are killing me.
But maybe it was time for someone else to touch them.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
Because I know you touch a lot of people you go in your travel. I know you do. Like Jeff said today, the angels, be kind to them. You don't know
Yeah.
strangers, you
Yeah.
talk to people, you witness, you just happen to mention something casual, you don't know, can click. God's plan.
See, it
It's
happens.
not
to
us, it's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that convicts me is the propensity I have to complain about this, that, or the other thing in my life. And it was the first song about make it known, shout it, praise with joy.
Mhm.
Well, I would if that person wasn't this or that. No, I need to live life in joy, not complain about this, that, or the other that happens in my life. But that's why I think these things are, although it's 2,800 years old, text written to a different people at a different time, in a different circumstance, are so relevant
Mhm.
because this is what God does. Now,
Well,
this,
it's not out of date at all.
no, not at
No.
all. Not at all.
Unfortunately, we haven't changed.
When you read, just like the story I told you about Africa, I mean, when you read, the Holy Spirit illuminates
Right.
scripture to you.
Open your eyes.
Right.
Yeah, so it's always relevant, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it's only relevant for an hour each week, and we're at the end of that hour, so let me do this and then they'll close here.
It's funny as we read these.